All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Reisz, and I work for the Center for Breakthrough Medicines, and I am an automation nerd. So before I really get into things, how many people here work in the pharma industry? Okay, so there's a small handful out there. This is my first time at this conference, and I've always had the perception that pharma is behind technology speaking, and there's a number of reasons for that, but in talking to a lot of people who are in different industries here, what I'm finding is while at the micro level we're facing different challenges and problems, and of course we're subject to different regulatory bodies and have different documentation standards that we need to adhere to, the macro problems that we're facing are very, very similar. So there's a lot we can learn from one another, and that's been a huge takeaway from this conference. So I'm very pleased about that. So a little bit about Center for Breakthrough Medicines. We're a cell and gene therapy CDMO. I believe when we're completely up and running, we will have 700 square feet of facility, and we will be the largest in the world. We have 4 business units. We have our plasmids, viral vector, cell therapy, and testing. My role as a senior automation engineer there is to work on the data management systems and build that architecture, as well as work on the integration for cell therapy. My colleague, Mohammed Gala, is responsible for all of the other integrations into our automation systems that pour SAP. Sorry, I'm missing a slide there. It appeared to be blank. So what I was going to talk about here is a little bit more about our company. We offer a lot of different services within our company. Kind of what our mission is we noticed within the cell and gene therapy space that there's a lack of production facilities. So what we're trying to do is offer a comprehensive plan to give scientists who have an idea, who have something developed in a small scale, a platform to scale that up, help them with the process development, help with that scale up, tech transfer, and then bring it to manufacturing so that they can reach more patients. The unique thing about cell therapy is that a lot of our equipment, you could literally put somebody's name on. We're helping individuals out there, and it's a very important mission, and we're really excited to be able to increase the capacity for production within the cell and gene therapy space. So this slide is one of my favorite slides, and this is how I kind of approach building a data management system. There's a lot of information here. If you want to talk about it afterwards, we can. I could do a dissertation on this in several lectures and write a book probably with what's here. But when it comes down to it, what we're trying to do is figure out what data do we have, what does our data mean, how is our data related, what can our data tell us, and how can we make our data work for us. Now, within the pharma industry, I think we have the first 2 down really well. I think within the third question there, the way we're answering that, we could do better. The fourth question, I'm beginning to question, are we approaching that sector correctly? Are we approaching MES correctly? Are we thinking about it in the right manner? Have we identified the correct problems? And I don't know that we've done a good job there. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement, especially with the advancements of technology. And then the fifth question there, I don't think the pharma industry is answering that at all. I don't think we're anywhere close to that, and I think it's because we're not deploying the correct technologies. So the way I applied these questions to developing our data management system and trying to build that architecture and fill out our data model is I developed a URS and tried to figure out, what is it we need to do? Because the cell and gene therapy space, it's very new to the industry. Whereas typical manufacturing, you have built data models already that you can apply to your manufacturing process and develop your batch records off of. But cell and gene therapy, it's kind of an unknown, and we're still trying to figure it out as we go. When I was brought into the company, we were still very, very early on. We were still under construction and developing our spaces, and the end business units didn't quite know how they wanted to operate yet. So with my experience, I could make a very good guess at what data we have. I can contextualize that pretty well. The second question, what does our data mean? That's more of an unknown. So I wrote our user requirements for the data management system based on capabilities. What do we need to do with our data? What are the asks that are gonna come later down the line, and how do we scale that appropriately over time and to a global organization? Because one of the limitations with cell and gene therapy is that we're not producing 1 million vials of something and shipping it out to the rest of the world. We're grabbing something from a patient, pulling it into our facility, doing magic to it, and then sending it back to the patient. And there's time limits involved in that. So we have to be very geographically close. So I have to develop a data management system that can operate at a global scale, which I don't think has really been done for, at least in the pharma industry. So after I developed that URS and I was happy with the capabilities that I was looking for, I moved to our functional requirements where I laid out what is the technology we're going to need to put in place and what user requirements are going to be fulfilled with each one of those pieces of technology. So this is what I came up with. In working in conjunction with my boss, Andre Zabari, who's an absolute visionary in the field, please don't fire me, and my other colleague, Brian Martinez, who both fought very hard to help get us this tech stack in place. And they were both very instrumental in that. So this is a very simplified view of what's going on. It's a lot more complicated than this, but this helps you understand, generally what's going on. So at the bottom level, we have our raw data. We're using up to 22 epics and Reisz for data collection, bringing that back into Ignition, utilizing UDTs to contextualize our data. We're using Sparkplug B to transport that back to our enterprise data repository in our data center. And that's then being passed on to Canary, which is our historian system. And then we're using Ignition to get our data out to the end users in the way they need to. The other thing we have is a cloud system, and this is pretty unique to our business model. We have both the historian in the cloud and Ignition in the cloud for user interface. What the intent there is to have a global Canary system, to be a global historian system for our entire network of automation devices, while still having in each location a centralized Canary system for historization. The other thing that's very unique here with that cloud system, and one of the largest complaints that I've heard in the industry with CDMOs, is that CDMOs don't share the client data with the client, which kind of blew my mind. I didn't understand why we're doing that. And there's a lot of legal reasons why companies get nervous about sharing data out, because if you share one client's data with another client, that's a major issue. Utilizing the security and the additional metadata we can add, and the different factors involved within Canary and Ignition, we're able to very easily segregate data and provide access to clients to be able to see whatever type of reports and data they would like to see as part of their process to make sure everything's going fine within the facility. So pulling back a little bit and going into a little bit more detail about how we've developed this, the advantages that we're getting from utilizing MQTT are huge. I have a couple surprises in the next slide, which I'll go into a little bit more detail there, and I don't want to ruin them. But the ability to contextualize data down at the bottom level, right at the edge, is incredibly huge. And it's helped us out tremendously in transporting that data up in data association and within that respect. One of the other major advantages that we have of using the Opto22 as our edge device is we have Code Assist on there, so I have the ability to have a process control network already in place. As I said, we didn't really know what the end users were going to need when it came to what asks they were going to have. So I don't know what's going to be there, so I built everything in, essentially. So having that ability with the Opto22s at the edge for process control of a floor is a huge advantage. So here's some of the advantages I've seen, and I try not to pull this out of a magazine or anything like that. I wanted to talk about the advantages that I personally experienced, a number of which came as a surprise as we began to implement things. So scalability is huge. Like I said, we have to have a global organization. We have to have a network, an automated network that is global, that's all talking to one another. I want to be able to develop a automated procedure in my facility, but a patient might need that in Japan. So I need to be able to send that automated code to that equipment and have it run there. So that's a huge advantage as far as scalability, as well as the increased data integrity using MQTT and the different products we have, which are all completely integrated, which is great about these companies, is that they're all talking with one another. They're all trying to solve the same problem and they're working together, which makes everything pair magnificently. It's very, very beneficial. They integrate seamlessly with one another, which is magnificent. One of the other major advantages of utilizing MQTT and Sparkplug B is the store forward capability. Recently, we did an update of our Canary system to a new version, which, by the way, took 10 minutes. I've never worked with a historian system you could update that effectively, that quickly. And as part of that, because of the store and forward capability, we had no data loss whatsoever. It just all backfilled after we were done doing the update, which was magnificent. We've also had some other issues. We have a significant portion of our facility which is under construction, and things happen under construction. For those of you who have worked in those environments, people cut wires, fiber gets cut off, power gets cut to certain areas and things like that. Store Forward has ensured that we don't have any data gaps in our GMP areas, which is extremely important, especially for regulatory reasons. So the next two are the big things. So everybody needs to wake up now. Because of the pre-contextualization of downstream, we don't have to do tag additions at the historian level. And this has decreased our point deployment time by 95%. That's huge. So utilizing the Opto22s for data collection at the edge, contextualizing it within Ignition using UDT predefined classes and pre-qualified classes, and then using Sparkplug B to transport that up to the broker, which publishes the information read by Canary. I don't have to do tag additions anymore. I just throw in that UDT, verify that it's communicating, and I'm done. I don't have to do any of that paperwork anymore. And for those of you in the pharma industry, you'll understand how big that is, because there's a huge paperwork burden associated with QA and validation for pretty much everything you do. So that's a major money saver there. And then, of course, it's designed to handle high volume. So there's a lot of different types of data that we'll have. We'll have images, files, all kinds of different stuff. And the ability to keep the bandwidth low is very, very beneficial. So that's pretty much my presentation. That's our use case. I'm beginning to learn how important this deployment is, because this is the first of its kind that's been qualified in the pharma industry, to my knowledge. And like I said, my colleagues have fought very hard to get this in place, and we're very proud of what we've built. So I hope that you guys can benefit from what we've done. I don't claim that we've done everything perfectly, but we've done the best we can, and we're looking for ways to improve it. And I found a host of ways at this conference thus far that I can take back and reevaluate some of the things we've done. So thank you very much for your time, and I very much appreciate being able to speak to you all.